So it is 9:33. We're still missing a couple people, but let's go ahead and get started. So my name is Dr. Ellis. This is CPH 565, Introduction to R Programming. I want to say first and foremost, I am beyond excited to teach this class. This is the first time this class has ever been offered. The fact that there are over 20 of you enrolled in this course, I cannot even tell you how happy that makes me. So I'm really excited to teach this course, to teach you all R programming, and I'm hoping that this is a really beneficial class for you. I'm going to assume that most of you probably need R programming, whether it be for research or you want to know how to analyze data. And so I really want this class to be beneficial for you. So by the time we get out at the end of the semester, you're able to do what you need to do, using R, no matter what that thing you want to be able to do is. So I was going to start out, I had a screen up here a second ago, but just kind of an outline of what we're going to do today. I want to give you just a brief introduction to the course. I'll talk a little bit about Canvas. Now, I already talked about some of that in the module 1.2 video, but I want to do just a kind of a brief overview of that. From there, I'm going to introduce you to RStudio, just talk about what you're seeing when you open the program. So that way, if you've never seen it before, you kind of have a feel for what's going on. And then we're going to do a small example assignment just to make sure that everything's running, to just kind of give you an overview of what is happening in R. I don't think today's lab will take the entire time. But again, by the time we get done today, my hope is that everybody's got everything installed and we're ready to really get talking about content next week. All right, so for starters, again, my name is Dr. Ellis. You can call me Amanda. I'm perfectly fine with that. I am brand new to UK. I just started full-time in August. Prior to this, I worked at EKU. So a couple of you had me last spring. That was the first class I ever taught for UK as a faculty member, but I was full-time at EKU. So I'm now full-time at UK. Very excited. I pretty much work my dream job now. So I'm usually gonna have a big smile on my face because I'm really happy to be here and to work with everyone. I got my undergraduate, master's, and PhD all from UK. My undergraduate was in mathematics, and then my master's and PhD were in statistics from the statistics department. I'm from Kentucky. I grew up in Northern Kentucky in Pendleton County. I don't know if anybody knows where that is. So I really, really love Kentucky and feel very lucky that I grew up here and I get to live here. I want to introduce you to the co-worker here at my house. So give me just a second here. This is Gus. You will all see him at some point and you will definitely hear him. He is a very, very vocal dog. So I'm just gonna apologize. For starters, you'll hear him, you'll probably see him. So just think of him as my very obnoxious coworker. So that is Gus, so you can see him. I'm sure you all also have, home coworkers as well. So if they pop up, I 100% understand, because like I said, Gus will definitely make an appearance at some point. So the next thing I want to do is we have a TA for the course, Ron Baker. I want to give Ron a chance to introduce himself.
Hey everyone, my name's Ron Baker. I'm also a Kentucky native. Grew up in Jessamine County, just south of Lexington. Did my undergrad at UK, so I've been in your shoes as well a bit, some of you. In the EpiBio PhD program, I've worked in information technology most of my career. So I have a little bit of familiarity with computers and a little bit with R and other programming languages. I'm excited to be here. This is my first term, and I feel very fortunate to be with you guys.
I have to draw everyone's attention to Sarah. She also has a Doberman, and I am so excited right now. Oh, look at those beautiful natural ears. Oh, he loves him. Okay, sorry, I won't. Oh, look at that face. Love the Dobo face. All right, so now that I'm gushing over the dogs, I will gush over all of your pets as they come on. I can't help myself. I'm a true animal lover. The next thing is I want to give you all just a brief introduction to the course. So one of the things that I had asked for prior to class was for you to go ahead and have a look at module 1.1 and 1.2, which were really just introductions to the course. If you haven't had a chance to do that, not a big deal. But I do want to just talk briefly about the structure of the course. So the main place we're going to work in this course is modules. There will be a module for each week that we have class. Typically, how the modules are going to be structured is we're going to start out with an introduction. So this is just going to be, what to look for during the week. And then you're going to have 2 lectures. Now, the lectures this week were pretty much, I showed you, how to navigate Canvas. And the other one was how to download the software. From here on out, what they are going to be is they're going to be me working on my computer in our studio. And you're going to have a corresponding script that you can follow along with. So I want to talk a little bit about these videos, why I chose to do the course this way, and how I would like you to utilize those videos. One of the things that's going to be really tricky for you all learning software is I'm going to guess that many of you are working with a single screen. So you're going to have a single screen where you're watching a video and you're going to be trying to program. If we did live lectures, that would be really hard because you would have to watch what I'm doing live and then on the same screen have one of them minimized and then try to do something in our studio, and it would be really tricky. So keeping that in mind, I decided to have the lectures be videos. So this way, what you'll want to do if you're working on a single screen is maybe watch 2-3 minutes of the video, pause, open up our studio and replicate what I did in the video. And then, repeat that process. Now, of course, if you're working on 2 screens, if you have dual monitors, all that much easy. You can have the video on one side and you can have the code on the other side. But that's why I programmed it, or I set the course up this way. The other thing that I really want to encourage you as you're watching videos for this course and you're filling in those scripts and you're working, you cannot break R. I promise you, anything you do, I can fix it. And if you do manage to break it, I am going to be beyond impressed. So as you're working through these scripts, don't feel like you're going to type something and you're going to break something and it can't be fixed. Breaking things is how you're going to learn coding. So don't feel like you're ever going to do anything wrong. It's all part of the learning process. So I encourage you, after I do something in the video, if you think, I wonder what would have happened if she did this instead, or maybe I want to try something similar. Feel free to do that in those scripts. Those are 100% for you. Those are your notes. You're not going to do anything wrong. You're not going to break anything. And that's really how you're going to learn. And as you do that, if you have questions, if you try something and you're like, that didn't work, I wonder why. Those are the great questions to bring to class and to ask. And that's how we're really going to learn, is by really, just playing around with the code, seeing what works, what doesn't, and asking questions about it. So you're typically going to have 2 lectures that are like that, and then there'll be a set of assignments that follow. And then the last thing we have for the week is going to be the lab. So the lab, that's what we're actually going to do in class together. Majority of labs, I'm not going to talk that much. Now this one, since it's the first one, I'm going to talk a lot so we can have introductions. But this is really going to be the time for you to tackle an assignment that's a little bit harder. But you're basically going to have me as your safety net and the rest of your class as your safety net during this time. So this is going to be the time you're going to get in there, you're going to code, and you're going to make lots of mistakes. And it's going to be great because you're going to share your screen. We're going to troubleshoot those mistakes together. And so that way, it won't be as frustrating as a process. So what I'm going to ask that you do is try to complete those first 2 lectures before we come to lab. Now, work is not actually due until the following Monday. So if you don't get everything done in lab, not a big deal. Or let's say you have a super busy week and you didn't get a chance to do the lectures before lab. Again, not a big deal because you can still do those assignments during class time. So really class time is for you. Now what I'm going to do is each week, so after today's class, and we complete lab 1, and we're pretty much going to do this one together, I will go ahead and make the next module available. So usually there'll be 2 modules available at a time. And so that's kind of how I view the work process for the course. And again, this is, I have structured this to hopefully alleviate some of the common problems that come with learning to code or learning a coding language. So I'm going to stop here and see if there are any questions.
So I have a specific question about downloading Miktex, but I can wait if you want to discuss other things first.
Yeah, so actually, if you don't mind, so we'll talk about Miktex. I think it's going to come in like 2 bullet points. So, because I imagine you're not going to be the only one. Is going to be my guess there.
Okay.
That's the trickiest part of the installation process is the Miktex portion. All right, so the next thing I want to do is I want to give you an introduction to RStudio and R specifically. Is there anyone that was not able to install R or RStudio? If you didn't get the Miktex portion, that's fine. But the R and the RStudio are what we're going to look at first. All right, good. So it looks like everybody's got RStudio. If you didn't, not a big deal. After we go through today's demonstrations, stick around at the end and we'll make sure that it's all working for you. So what I would like everyone to take just 2-3 minutes to do is, and let me share my screen here. So the first thing I'm going to have you do is to go to Canvas, and you'll notice under the 1.3 week 1 lab, you're going to click on lab 1, R scripts and R notebooks. And there are going to be 2 files that I'm going to have you download to your computer. This first one is going to be a PDF that has the lab assignment. The second one is what we call an R script. So take a couple minutes, I'll stop talking, download those, and put them somewhere on your computer where you know where they are. And then once you have that done, just give me a thumbs up on your screen so I can kind of watch, and that way I'll have a good feel that everybody's got those files. I think I've got almost everyone, so we'll give it another minute or 2. If you already have those files downloaded, go ahead and open up RStudio. So find RStudio on your computer and go ahead and get that open. All right, so I think I've got pretty much everyone now has the 2 files. So I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to talk just a little bit about RStudio. So you can just watch this portion. You don't have to do anything yet. I'll give you a chance to do that. All right, does everybody see my RStudio? Okay, perfect. All right, so when you first open up RStudio, it is going to look something like this. More than likely, yours has a white background. I'm going to talk about that here in just a second. But the very first thing I want to do is actually open up that file that you just downloaded. Okay. So there are 2 different ways that you can do this. I'm going to show you both ways, and then I'll give you a second to open that file on your computer. The first way is you will see there is a little folder here. It's got a green arrow. You're going to open an existing file. So you can click here, and this will navigate through your computer. So you'll just want to find on your computer where you have the file stored. This is where it is on mine. And you're going to look for that module 1.3 script. You'll click open, and you should see a file that looks like this. The second way that you can find a file in RStudio is in this bottom right-hand window. If you click on the Files tab, you'll notice 3 little dots. It'll say Go to Directory. And this will also open up all of the files on your computer. And again, you could navigate to where you have that file stored, click OK, and it will open it down here, and you can click on it. So if I were going to do that, let's see. Okay, classes. Oops. Module 1, okay. And then module 1.3 script, I would click that and open it. So take just a moment, minimize this, pull up RStudio and see if you can get that file open. Perfect. Yeah, if you give me that thumbs up when you've got that file open, all the better. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see everyone's faces. Awesome. Okay, so it looks like just about everybody has got this file open. So you have now successfully opened up your first R script. So you have already done more today than you may have ever done. So you're doing really good. So let's talk a little bit about what is going on here now in RStudio to just get your eyes adjusted. I think one of the hardest parts about learning a new software is not only do you have to learn to write the language, but you also have this new interface that you've never seen before. And so that can be pretty tricky. So I want to take just a minute and talk about the 4 main working environments in RStudio and what's going on here. So this upper left-hand corner, this is where we open what are called scripts. You can think of a script as just kind of like a Word document, but instead of typing, a paper, you're going to type R code. And we can save this just like you would a Word document. And so that way our code is saved and we can run it later on whenever we need to use it. So that's what a script does. And down here, we have what is called the console. So the console is where we can write lines of code directly. In all honesty, I rarely use the console. And the reason, well, I use it, but I don't type directly into it. And the reason for that is usually if I write a line of code, I'm going to want to use it later on. So I'm going to almost always write code up here, and then it'll appear down here. And I'll talk more about that when we actually look at the script. Here in the upper right, we have what's called the global environment. As we enter what are called objects into R, we read in data sets, things like that. That's going to appear here. And then this bottom one, this is kind of like various extra features. We can navigate the files on our computer. When we make plots, they're going to appear here. We can ask R for help, and that help is going to appear down here. So this bottom right one's going to do lots and lots of stuff. All right. The first thing that I want to show you is in your RStudio, my guess is right now, unless you've used RStudio before, you probably have a white background. And you'll notice that mine looks probably pretty different than yours. The reason for that is you can change the color scheme. And I'm going to show you how to do that. And I really recommend it because the white background can cause a lot of eye strain when you're working on the computer. The black background doesn't cause as much eye strain. So I usually just go ahead and change that. If you want to change it so it looks like mine, if you go up here to Tools, and you will notice Global Options. Once you click on Global Options, there'll be an option for Appearance. All right, and I can't make that bigger. Down here, there are all different themes. The one that I use is Chaos. But if you scroll down, you'll see that it has all different kind of color schemes that you can choose from. Again, I like one with a dark background, mainly because of eye strain. The other thing is you can change the font size. So if you want that text to be a little bigger, because the default R is kind of small, totally up to you. So to check and see if you like it, you just click Apply. If you like the way it looks, click OK. So I'm going to cancel. Again, I'm going to give you just a few minutes. If you want to, again, go to Tools, Global Options, and Appearance in your RStudio to play around with how that looks. I'm going to give you a second to do that. And again, I do recommend that dark background, mainly due to eye strain. All right. So in this class, there are 2 primary ways that I'm going to have you turn in work. there are what are called R scripts, and there are what are called R notebooks. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at an R script, and you already have one downloaded. So again, you can think of an R script as just a document that holds all of your code. Okay? So in an R script, there are two, I shouldn't say two, but you want to include what are called comments. So everybody should notice this top piece right here, and you can see on mine how it is grayed out. Any line that starts with a hashtag is what is called a comment. Comments are just for the person reading the code. Okay? R doesn't care about these. It's not going to do anything with them. They are purely for the person reading the code. So what I'm going to ask is at the top of each of your scripts, you're going to have a section that looks like this. You can think of this as the same as writing your name at the top of your paper. Essentially what this does is this comment is just to let anyone that opens up this script know, hey, what is this script for? And we can easily see that this script is for this class, module 1.3. We're going to work on lab 1. And then I'm going to put in my name, and I'm going to put in the date that I work on it. So today is the 28th, 2021. And so that way, the next time I open up this file, I can easily see, hey, that's the last time I worked on this. This is a really good idea to get in the habit of doing, especially if you're working on data. You know, having the last working date in a file is always a really good thing to have, because it will just remind you, hey, when is the last time I worked on this project, or when was I doing this? And so having that edit date is just a beneficial thing that's for you. R doesn't care about it at all. So take just a moment, and at the top of the script, minimize the video if you need to, add in your name and add in today's date. And then give me a thumbs up when you were able to edit that script and put in your name. Awesome. All right, so you've written your first entry into an R script. So we're doing good. All right, so we've put our name essentially in the script. We wrote our name at the top. So now let's do some actual work. So how R works is it's what's called object oriented. And so the idea is we are going to create objects, and R is going to store them for us. And then we can work with those objects and we can do things. So the most basic things that we could do is we could assign an object to be a number. So in this case, I'm going to have an object. I'm going to name it X, and I'm going to set it equal to 5. So to run a line of code, all we have to do is we can highlight the line and we can click on the run button. Notice when I run this line of code, it automatically appears down in the console. So anytime you run a line of code, it's going to auto-populate down here and actually run. So all I did in this line of code was I created an object, I named it X, and I have set it equal to the number 5. So notice up here now in my global environment, I have a value X, and it's equal to 5. So if you run this line of code, you will have created your first object in R. Now, there are two different ways to assign objects in R. You can either use the equal sign, or you can use the arrow. It does the same thing. It makes no difference. They're exactly the same. I tend to use the arrow just because that's what I learned first, but it doesn't matter which one you use. You can use either one. So now that we have assigned X to be equal to 5, we could call that variable and output it down in the console. So if I just type X by itself and I run, notice in blue, down in the console, we have the line of code that we ran, and in white, we have what we call the output. So R is telling me that X is 5. Right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to define a new variable, and I'm going to let you all try this on your own. See if you can define a variable named age and set it equal to your current age. So I'm going to give you a second to try that, and then when we come back, I'll show you what that looks like on my screen. so I see in the chat, so Shelly, I'm going to call you out here, Shelly. So I saw in the chat you're having trouble finding the run option. If you don't mind, and I'm going to do this a lot in this course, the easiest way to see what's going on and to help troubleshoot is, Shelly, if you don't mind, I'm going to actually have you share your screen so I can see what you're seeing, and that's going to help me troubleshoot here.
Yeah, not a problem. I can't, it doesn't look like yours.
Yeah. So let's take a look and see what's going on.
So right here, it doesn't have that run at all. I don't know where it is.
Yeah, so do me a favor, make your window full screen. So if you click in the upper right-hand corner, the full screen box, yes. All right, and, okay.
I'm missing stuff right here.
Yeah, so, oh, that's why. Okay, so if you look at the file name, do you see how your file name is got .r.txt?
Yes.
For some reason, when yours downloaded to your computer, it's saved as a .text file instead of a .r file. So what's happening is R thinks that this file is a text file, not an R script.
Okay.
So there's a couple different ways to fix this. So one way would be re-download it. The other way, which is a good teaching moment, and let me show you this. So let me show you all how to create a new R script. And Shelly, I'm going to use you as my guinea pig. And I'm going to show you how to create a brand new R script, and we're just going to copy the information into it. All right, so Shelly, if you will for me, do you see the white piece of paper in the upper left-hand corner that has the green plus sign? Click on that for me. Click on the down button next to it. See how it has R script? Click on that. And that is going to open up a brand new R script.
Ah, now I have all the buttons.
Yeah, so R knows that this is an R script, and we're going to run R code in it. So the next thing we're going to do is, if you will go over to that first script, which was a text file, highlight all of it, copy it. Exactly, and let's paste it in there. So one thing to notice that now we've got some color variation in what we see here. That's one thing that lets us know that R is actually recognizing this as an R script, because those color differences, they represent different things. So like everything that's grayed out, those are comments. And we can see in the part where it has X equal, that's actually our code that's going to run. And you did the next thing I was going to ask you to do, which is perfect. I'm going to actually have you save as, or save, either one. Go ahead and give that a name. You can call it lab 1, module 1.3 script, or whatever you want to call it there. And you'll notice that now, in your file name, I would not put a dot. I'd use an underscore there. The reason for that is every once in a while that can cause issues. Yeah. Perfect. So go ahead and save that. And now you'll notice up top, see how that's a .r file instead of a .text file. So now everything should run for you.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I stop sharing now?
Oh, yes. Samuel, I just saw your question, and yeah, it is pretty big. I'm going to actually show you all a workaround if you don't want to download something that big. So we'll get to that when we do the R notebooks. All right, Quentin says, I can't get X equals 5 to show up in my global environment. So Quentin, do you mind to share your screen real quick?
Yeah.
All right, so part of the problem is, so if we look down, and this is, again, great teachable moment here. So if we look down at the bottom, see how you have just ran X by itself, and it says object X not found.
Yeah.
Anytime you see that, what that most likely means is you haven't actually ran the assignment yet. So do me a favor, highlight the piece of code that says X equals 5 and click on run for me. And notice now the X and the 5 are in the global environment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you always, and that happens to me all the time. I'll go to call a variable and realize I haven't actually made the assignment yet. So that's what's happening there. So now if you run the X by itself, it should appear down in your console.
Ah, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, and then, so let me bring my screen back up. All right, so if we define age, you should have done something like this. So I'm 36. We'll run it. And then we can call age down below. And we will see age is now in my global environment. I can also run age and it will appear down below. Now, R can be a little sensitive when it comes to variable names. And so I want to show you what that looks like. If I write age as a capital A, R is going to tell me, I don't know what age is. R is case sensitive. You're going to make this mistake 100 times. I do this all the time. So almost always, if it tells me it cannot find an object, that means I've done one of two things. I forgot to run the line of code where I assign that object, or I've capitalized something I shouldn't. So just keep that in mind. R is going to be case sensitive. Now here, we've just assigned X to be a single number. R is very flexible. We can make objects single numbers, vectors, matrices, data sets, arrays. We can do characters, we can do numbers, we can do what are called logic values. We do all kinds of things. And we're going to talk about those as the weeks come up. But I want to start out by just showing you another option, which is to specify a vector. So this line of code has three portions to it. Y is going to be the name of the object. And the name of the object is up to you. There's a few restraints on that, and you'll see that in the homework next week. But for the most part, you can name an object, whatever you want. We have the assignment operator. Here I'm using the equal sign. And the next piece is I'm going to actually make the vector. So this is going to be our first, what we call function in R. Anytime you use a function, you're going to have some string of letters, usually the function name. This function is just called C, and it stands for combine. And you're going to have an open close parentheses, and anything you put in the middle is what we call arguments. So what I'm going to first do is just run this portion and see what it looks like down below. So what this function does is it combines the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 into a single object, and we call this a vector. So I'm going to highlight this whole thing, and we now see that Y is an object that contains 5 elements, and it's the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Just like we did with X or with age, I could highlight just the name of my object Y and bring it down here in the console, and I see 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And I can call individual elements of Y. And to call individual elements, I use what are these square brackets. So by having Y, square brackets next to it, with the number 2 in the middle, I'm going to call the second element. So before I run this, let's look at Y and see what I should expect to happen. So if Y contains the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, I see the second element is equal to 2. So hopefully this is going to produce the number 2. So we can run this, and we see that that is what we get. So in R, the parentheses are always going to be used for functions. These square brackets are going to be used to call elements from objects. So what I would like you to do is you are going to define your own vector now. You're going to call it classes. So to name it classes, I'm just going to write out classes. Use the assignment operator of your choice. And I want you to mimic this next piece of code to make a vector that has length 7. So you're going to have 7 numbers here in the middle, each separated by a comma. And you're going to set it equal to the number of hours of class you attend each day of the week. And it doesn't have to be exact. This is just to show you how to define a vector. So take 2-3 minutes, see if you can do that.
Quick question.
Yes, is this James?
Yeah, me, Gustavo.
Sorry, I got that one.
Sorry, I was eating, so I turned my camera off. Um, you said that like parentheses display function in brackets, like you can use brackets like to pull up. Like how does you define it? Like it
Yeah,
sounded
you
pretty.
pull
I
a
wanted to
piece
write it
from
down.
an object. Yeah, so it'll be used to pull a piece from an object. So one way to think of it is y here contains, so y is an object that contains 5 pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the bracket can be used to pull pieces from that object or
Cool.
elements from that object. And then James, I just saw your question. You are exactly right. R does start indexing at 1. So if anybody codes in another language, other languages will index at 0. R does index at 1. So that is something to be aware of. All right, so while you're working, I'm going to make my vector. Again, your numbers will be a little bit different than mine, but the idea here is just to create a vector of length 0. Oh, probably of length 7, not 0. My bad. I was typing a 0 as I said that. All right. So notice if I run this, I now get that object classes. I can see it contains 7 numbers. And I can also use that bracket notation. I'll do that up here. And let's say that I want to know how many hours I'm in class on the 5th day of the week. I could run this. And we'll see it's 2 hours. Don't worry, we're going to work a lot more with vectors next week. Again, this is just to give you kind of just an idea of what can be in scripts. All right, there are lots and lots of ways to specify vectors. Another way to do that is to specify what's called a sequence. So let's say instead of creating my sequence this way, like I did with y, where I actually had to write out all of the numbers, another way that I could do that is by using 1:5. So I'm going to set z equal to 1:5. And notice up here, we can see that z and y both contain the numbers 1 through 5. Now, R is storing these slightly different. One is storing as numeric, the other one is integer. Don't worry too much about that. It won't make much of a difference for what we do. And I'll talk a little bit more next week about the different data types and data structures. We can also force R to go in increments of -1 instead of +1. To do that, we can still use the colon notation. We just start with the bigger number. So notice that YY is going to go 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. And then finally, the other way that we could do this is we could use a new function we haven't seen yet. It's the sequence function. It's SEQ. So notice I've got the name of the function. I've got my open close parentheses, so that lets me know that SEQ is a function. And this function uses 3 arguments. So here are the 3 arguments. We have from, the number we're going to start. So we put the number there, comma, the number we want to go up to, and then how we want to move from the first number to the second number. So if we run this, we can see that ZZ, by using that sequence function, we're not restricted to moving in whole numbers. We can move in whatever increment we want to. All right, so next, take a moment, see if you can define a sequence name odd and set it equal to the odd numbers from 1 to 100. And you're going to want to use the sequence function to do that. So we're going to start out with the sequence function. You're going to want to define a from, give it a number, a to, give it a number, and a by. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes, see if you can fill in those numbers and use the sequence function to define a sequence and set it equal to the odd numbers from 1 to 100.
Professor Ellis, can I ask you an
Yeah.
unrelated question?
What you got?
I used R once before for a homework, and I can still see all the variables I'd saved in my global environment. Can you tell me how to get rid of those?
Sure can. Do you see that little broom right here? So if you click that little broom, now just so you know, when you click it, it is going to get rid of everything. So you'll want to rerun the stuff that we've done today. But clicking this little broom will get rid of everything in here.
Gotcha, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any way that you can get rid of things without taking away everything in the global environment?
Yes. And let me remember okay, so full disclosure, this is a good moment for this. I personally don't do this, and I honestly don't know anyone that does. Don't feel like you're going to have to memorize all of these function names. Nobody does that. Almost always, if there's a function I haven't used in a while, I'm pretty much always going to go to Google and ask. When it comes to coding and working in R, Google is going to be your best friend. Now, off the top of my head, though, I think that the line of code is RM. So let me try it. On my end, I'm going to do RM. And let's say I wanted to remove that age that I had done earlier. So if we do RM age, I remembered. Okay, so using the RM function will remove something that you have up here if you don't want to use it. So Brooke, try that. If it doesn't work, let me know. Yeah, so while you all are working on that, Google will definitely be your friend. Being able, and I don't want you all to think of using Google as a crutch. I think a lot of times when people first learn coding, they're like, oh, I shouldn't have to use Google. Maybe that's a bad thing. No. Using Google while coding is an excellent skill to have. And the better your Google food, the better you're going to be when it comes to coding. I don't know anyone that codes that doesn't use Google to help them. And so the more you code and the more you find things that you want to do, but you're unsure how to do it, definitely use Google. It's going to be a huge help. I use Google all the time when I'm coding because, again, nobody remembers all the function names. It's more, really more the skill is to have enough of a base knowledge and an understanding of how R works so that you can go out and find help to do what it is that you need to do. All right, was everybody able to define the odd sequence? I'm going to go ahead and do that on mine. We want to go from 1 to 100. And notice that if we want the odd numbers, we want to do that in increments of 2. So let's run this. I could call odd down below. I could also see it up here. And notice I've got me a nice vector of all of the odd numbers from 1 to 100. So we've made another object. Now, there are going to be times when you come across a function and you need help with it. You're not sure about the arguments. You're not sure about what's going on. And so R has built-in help functions. And so let's talk about those just a little bit. The first one, aptly named, is just help. So let's run this. So notice here I did help, and in the argument here I put the name of the function I'd like to learn about. Down here in your extra various window, notice now the help tab is open, and we get some information about that function. So this is one way you can always find help with functions. One thing to notice, if you need to make that bigger, these windows do move, so you can move those around, make them bigger, make them smaller, whatever you need to do there. And so you could read about that function. You can also do the question mark, the name of the function, and it will pull up the same file. So either of those work the same. Now, let's say that you wanted to create a sequence, but you're like, oh man, I don't remember what the function name is. I know what I want to do, but I don't know what the correct function is. There are also ways to do those kinds of searches. So you can use the help.search function, and here you have to put the thing that you're looking for in quotations. So if I want to learn how to make a sequence, I put sequence in quotations. I can run this. All right, and this will happen. So if you run this, and I'm going to have you run it here in a minute, for some reason, sometimes the search results work. Sometimes I have trouble with it. If this pulls up on your end, what you're basically going to see are a list of functions down here, and one of them will be the SEQ function, and you can click on it and read about it. If you're like me and you have bad luck with your search results sometimes, using RStudio, I almost always just go to Google and I will Google, how do I make a sequence in R? And I will get lots of answers. One thing that you will find is great about R, but it's also super frustrating, is that there is never just one way to do something. There are always multiple ways to do things. Some of them will have advantages over others. So just be aware of that. There's always going to be more than one way to do something. All right, and you could also use a double question mark instead of the help.search function. All right, so what I'd like you all to do is either use the help.search or go to Google and see if you can find a function that will tell you the maximum value in a vector. So take just a moment, either try Google, try this, see if you can find a function that will tell you the maximum value in a vector. So Ron was able to help me out here. So again, this goes to that case sensitive. Let's see if this works. So if we do the help.search and I capitalize sequence, oh no, it's still not working on mine. All right, so it looks like JP has found a function. So shouldn't be too surprising, but the name of the function is max. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the max function. I'm going to put in here that object I created classes. I'm going to run this. And if you'll remember, my class vector was created or comprised entirely of zeros and twos. So it's obvious the max for mine is 2. And notice I get 2. So try that function with your vector called classes and see if it outputs the maximum number of hours you're in a class per day. All right, did anybody have trouble with that? Was everybody able to find, apply that max function to the object that you created? All right, fantastic. All right, so last thing I'm going to show you in R is you can use R as a basic calculator. Okay, so this is probably the most basic thing you can do in R. So I'm actually just going to pop down here to the console. Let's say there's just a real quick console calculation that you need to do, not necessarily something you need to save for later. You can type code in the console just like you would a calculator. So I could do 1 + 1, for example, and it will tell me the answer. So here's just some basic operations in R. So I've written them up here so I could save them, but you got your addition, subtraction. Now this one is important to remember. The asterisk is used for multiplication. It's not like an X symbol or a dot. It is going to be the asterisk. So remember that the asterisk is multiplication in R. For example, you know, a lot of times if you write out multiplication, let's say you might do parentheses. So if you wrote that 2, open, close parentheses, 2 in the middle on a piece of paper, people would know that you meant 2 times 2. But remember that parentheses are saved for functions in R. So if we run this, I'm going to get an error and it's going to tell me that's not a function. So in order to do the 2 times 2, you do have to use the asterisk. Now, these are basic calculations. We can do calculations on a named object. So for example, here we have A is equal to 5. So I'm going to create a new object A, set it equal to 5. And I could do things like take A to the power of 2. I could do more complicated things to A and then set that equal to a new object. So here we see W is equal to 108. So you can do lots of types of calculations. So here, if you want to play around with R, are a couple options. I'll let you all play around with those for just a minute. I will show you. There are some that are pre-named. So for example, pi, you don't have to assign pi, R already knows what pi is. So in order to take the square root and the absolute value, the cosine or the log, I haven't told you what those functions are, but see if you can take a minute and figure out what those function names are. Kate, I just saw your email. I'm glad you're back in. All right, so if anybody's able to figure out any of these four, if you want to, put them in the chat. And as I see them, I will add them to the screen. So Quentin has one. Okay, good. So we've already seen here in the chat, there are different options for how to code things. So for example, with the pi one, we could take pi to the half power, or we could use the square root function. Either one is going to give us the same answer. So again, one thing to keep in mind for R, there's always going to be more than one way to do something. I'm going to take these dollar signs out here. You don't actually need those dollar signs. Was anybody able to find the absolute value function yet? Good. So the absolute value function is going to be ABS. And you'll notice here that even though these names are abbreviated, they're pretty intuitive. When we see them. All right. What about the cosine? Anybody find the cosine function? Cosine is COS. And the last one, I'll go ahead and do this one, is just going to be log. And notice we find that's negative infinity. All right, so you all have now created your very first R script. So make sure up here at the top, does everybody see on the top of my screen, do you see how there's an asterisk after the .r? Anytime you see that asterisk, what that means is the file hasn't been saved recently. You've made changes since the last time it was saved. So if you click the save button, notice it will go away. This will turn a different color that lets you know it's saved. It's kind of a nice visual reminder. Just like anything you work on with a computer, you want to save often, just in case something happens. Same thing is true here. So if you see that little asterisk up there, just keep that as your reminder. Hey, I haven't saved in a bit. I should probably save this so I don't lose what I've done. All right, so again, this is your very first R script. This is one of the files you were going to turn in for today's lab. So I want to pause and see if anybody has any question about the R scripts. So I'm going to bring this up. Ron. Perfect. So it looks like there might be a bug right now in RStudio as to why the help.search isn't working. I'm going to put this in the chat so that if you want to, you can look at this later. Good find, Ron. And this is, again, a good teaching moment here. RStudio is definitely a living thing. Things change. Same thing with R. There have been things that I have tried in the past that have worked really well, and maybe I don't use them for a while, and I come back and there's some bug that has happened. That is bound to happen to us this semester, and it's actually a really good lead-in to what we're going to do next. So the R script is one way that we're going to turn and work in this course. The other way is what is called an R notebook. So R notebooks are a really nice way to intertwine R code output, and written text. These are going to be great if you are ever working with a collaborator or you need a really nice way to present your results for R. Highly recommend using R notebooks. So that's why I wanted to make sure that I show you all and give you practice in this course using R notebooks as well as scripts. Because again, these will become really useful, especially if in the workforce you're ever using R. So the next thing I want to do is show you how to make an R notebook. Now, I am going to demonstrate an R notebook for you. I don't want you all to do anything yet. The reason for this is where Miktex is going to come into play. And I know some of you had problems with the Miktex, and so I'm going to talk about solutions, but I just want to show you what an R notebook looks like first, so you have an idea of what we're working towards, and then we'll talk about how to get there. All right, so to create an R notebook, just like when we created, the R script, we're going to click on R notebook instead. Anytime you click on R notebook, it is going to start out with a template. So you're going to see this every time you open one of these, and this is just a template. The first time you create one of these, RStudio is likely to tell you you do not have the necessary packages to make one of these, and it's going to ask you if you want to download them. Tell it yes. Okay, so the first time you do this, you're probably going to have to install some stuff, and that's completely expected. Now, what these do, so I want to show you what the end result is first. So we've got an idea. Oh, actually, the first thing I have to do is save this. I'm just going to save mine as lab example. When we create yours, we'll call it lab 1. And I'm going to go through all this, but again, I just want to show you what the end product looks like. All right. So what this will do is it will create a nice PDF. And what this PDF will do is it will have a title. It will have some text where you can explain some stuff. You can see here, it kind of has this gray bar with the code on it. So it will provide the code, and then below the code, it's going to show the output of the code. And then you can have some more stuff that you wrote. So that's the purpose of an R notebook. It's a really nice way to present your R code and your R output. So if we go back here, I'm going to close this. Again, it starts out here with just a template. So we're actually going to change this template each time, but by default, it will always start with this. So we can give it a title. So I'm going to call it Lab 1. We can put in whatever text we want here. We can put in whatever R code we want, and R code will always be sandwiched between this and this line. And then down here, this is just reminding you how to insert new chunks, how to do some previews and things like that. So I'm going to leave this here for right now, but I will delete it at the end because again, this is just a template. So the very first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that everybody in the class can compile the template. So I'm going to have everybody compile the template and make the PDF without making any changes. So I'm going to walk you through these steps. I'm going to start over. Sure save. All right, so first thing I want everyone to do is to click up here and click on R notebook and get this tab open. Don't save it yet. Don't do anything. Just get this tab open. Again, it might ask you to download some things. And I just saw Shelly's question. Shelly, let me move up there for you while everybody's doing that. There's where I made the original statement for classes. All right, so for right now, I just want everybody to open up an R notebook and download any packages that it asks you to download. And then once you have this right here, don't change anything in it. Give me a thumbs up and let me know that you're able to get it. All right, perfect. So it looks like most people are there. I'm going to give you a little bit more time, but for those of you that are, go ahead and do the save as and save it as lab 1. Ooh, can't type here, lab 1. And let's just do underscore your last name. And go ahead and save that. All right, once you get that all saved, well, I guess let me ask it the other way now. Is anybody not to this step yet? Raise your hand if you have not completed this step. If you haven't, not a big deal. I just don't want to move on yet. All right, so let's compare the two files that you should have open. Notice that the script is a .r file. The notebook is a .rmd. So that's one way to know the difference between the two. They're going to have different extensions. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create a document based off of this. And there's 3 different ways we could do this. The first one is you could knit to an HTML document, you could knit to a Word document, and you could knit to PDF. To knit to PDF is the reason you need Miktex. So Miktex or MacTeX is what allows you to do that knit to PDF. You could also knit to Word. For this class, you just need to be able to complete one of these 2 options. So if we get either of them to work, you're good to go for the rest of the class. So let's try the knit to Word first. So if you click on knit to Word, it will take you a second. You're going to get some stuff that runs down here, and you should get a nice Word document that pops up. So everybody try that. Awesome. Yeah, so give me the thumbs up if you're able to make that Word document.
Dr. Elise,
Yes.
my Word document looks a little bit different. I don't have this graph.
Okay, so yours didn't have the, oh, interesting. Let me, and you didn't change any of the code in the template?
No.
All right. Let me show Katie where the knit button is again, and then I might have you share your screen if you don't mind. Katie, the knit button is right here. It looks like a little ball of yarn, and it's got a needle in it. And then you'll click the arrow next to it, and it'll bring up the different knit options for you. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. And if you don't mind, yeah. And then, do you mind to go back to our studio for me? You got your RMD. I am not sure. Everything looks in place here. We'll try the knit to PDF here in a second, and if it's still not showing on that version, then we'll troubleshoot what's going on.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so Kate is not seeing, yeah, the knit button. So Kate, there's one of 2 things going on. Let me share my screen again. So on yours, do you have a .rmd file? Oh, she found it. Perfect, perfect. All right, so if you got it to knit to Word, fantastic. You could save that as a PDF and turn it in. The other option is, if you have successfully got Miktex to work, or Miktex, is you can click on the knit to PDF. And you will notice when it comes up, it will look slightly different, but still has all of the information. So everyone try that one. And again, if you can't get this option, we can do one of two things. I can either help you troubleshoot so that we can get the Mic or Miktex on your computer, or if the Word option works for you, you can do the Word option.
So my Word option works, but the Miktex not.
Okay, so it's up to you then. You can stick with the Word option, which is perfectly fine. Just save that as a PDF.
Mhm.
I can help you get the Miktex to work. Either one works for me.
I can just save it as a PDF. We'll make it easy.
Well, sometimes that's usually the best way to get it. And if later on you want this version, we can always fix that later on. Lindley, did that fix it for you? Is your plot showing if you compile the PDF version?
I'm still working on it. A second.
Oh, you're fine. All right, so while she's working on that, what we're going to do is we're now going to take some of the work from our script and we are going to move it into an R notebook. And again, this is just for illustration purposes here, because it's not going to be that meaningful. But later on, when we're working with data sets, transferring this over into a nice document that you could share with collaborators is going to be really important. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here. I'm going to delete this out because I don't want the tutorial information. I want to add in my information. And so I'm just going to say, this is how we can create an object in R. We will create and can't type today, object named, and set it equal to 5. Okay, so I got a little bit of text that tells me, hey, this is what we're doing here. So if I were working with a collaborator, I would more say something like, hey, I'm going to read in this data set. Here's a little bit about this data set to let you know about it. Now, in this section, I'm going to actually put my code. So I'm going to come over to my script. And this is the piece of code that I want to move in. So I'm going to copy it and paste it in between here. So I'm going to get rid of the plot cars. I don't need that, and just paste it in. So take a moment and see if you can get this piece of your R notebook to look the way that I have it. All right, give me the thumbs up when you have that code in your R notebook. All right. So now I want to show you a couple of the nice features of an R notebook before we actually compile it again. All right, so first of all, whenever we are in a code chunk, you'll notice how R makes the background a slightly different color. So we know we're working in a code chunk. And you're going to see some buttons over here on the side. What we can do is we can actually run these individual chunks. So if you click on this one, it will run this whole chunk. And notice it is going to show me below the output that would normally appear in the console. So before we ever compile the document and create either that Word document or that PDF, you'll want to run your individual chunks just to make sure that nothing has gone wrong and you're not getting any errors. So everybody click on that button, make sure you see the number 5 down below and that your code chunk has ran appropriately. All right, yeah, give me the thumbs up when you get that to work. All right, perfect. So now what I want you to do is I want you to knit the document just like you did before. So you could knit to the PDF if that worked for you, or you could knit to Word, either one. So when you knit, you should get something that looks like this. And again, see how we've got a nice bit of text that tells us, and everyone there is Gus. He is now awake from his sleep. So we've got some text that tells us what the code is going to do. We have a nice, piece that has the code in it, and we can see that background is a slightly different color, and we get the output that R produces. All right, so I'm going to close this, and let's finish out our R notebook. Oh, I'm sorry, someone have a question?
Yeah, so yours looked a lot nicer than mine does. How did you make it so that the background was kind of a different color?
It should do that by default. Did you do the Word or do the PDF or do the
Word.
Yeah, you did the Word. Let me do Word. Word might not do that by default.
Okay.
Let me did it not knit. Sorry. Let's see here. Oh, there it is. I want Ellis. Yeah, so in Word, it should be a different color in the background. It's just really, really faint. So like is it just faint? It might be the resolution on your screen.
Yeah, I'm not seeing one at all, but maybe it is just the
Yeah,
resolution.
because you can barely see it on mine. If it doesn't make that difference, it's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we've got some chat that I missed. Sarah, when we're done, we'll look at yours and see what's going on. Same thing, anybody that's having trouble generating the PDF, once we get done with this, if you want to, I will help you do that. So Lindley, it looks like on yours, if you get a LaTeX failed to compile, that usually means there's a problem with the Miktex. So we'll address those individually once we get finished. All right, so Kate, it looks like you're having trouble getting the code to copyright. Let me stop sharing. Kate, do you want to bring yours up and we will look at it and see what's going on there?
Yeah, let me figure out how to do that.
Oh, good.
Oh, there it is. I
Daniel,
got it.
make sure to close the old Word document before knitting again. That might cause some issues.
Okay, I'll do that first.
And then Shelly, try that. If you have the old document open, try closing it first. And if that doesn't help, let me know.
So I don't know what I did wrong.
Oh, yep, I already see what it is. So do you see the ... R?
Yeah.
Not periods, they are apostrophes.
Okay.
And then you'll want to have 3 of them.
Like that.
If we have not done anything after, well, we re-knitted it after running the chunk. So not commas, it should be
How do you?
apostrophes.
Okay.
There you go. And then you'll need to do 3 at the end as well.
Like that.
Yeah, but it's not. Hold on a
This
second. Let me show you another way that you can do this as well. If you don't mind to stop sharing, let me show you an easier fix, and I'll just show you on my screen because it'll make it easier.
Yeah, let me go back to the
It's actually our next step anyway, so.
stop share. Okay.
All right. So let me go back to share screen here. So the next thing we're going to do is right below this, we're going to add a new chunk of code. And so, Kate, you'll be able to do this and just copy the first one in there. So notice down below here in the tutorial, it reminds you how to do this. So there's 2 different ways we could do this. We could click the insert chunk button in the toolbar. So insert, and we're going to do an R chunk. So it'll automatically create that for you. and you can put code in there, or you could use Control-Alt+I. So either one. So everybody use one of those two methods and create a new code chunk. And for some reason, my chat has disappeared. There we go. Okay, good. Good. So
Can you show me the,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
sorry, can you show me the insert code chunk button one more time?
So it's this button right here. Now,
Right.
when you insert code, you can actually do multiple languages. We're just working with R on this course, so you'll want to click the R option.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, you're right. So Samuel is correct. So if you wanted to type this in, it's the button on your keyboard that's right next to the number 1. So I guess really it's a single quote is what it is, not an apostrophe. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to fill in this last chunk, and then we're going to knit this, and you'll be done. You'll have created your first R notebook. So let's go back over here. And next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the specify a vector. So I'm going to copy the specify a vector portion, and I'm going to paste that inside of this chunk. And whenever we make an R document, remember the reason we do this is because we want to include plain language along with our coding. So let's just say this is how we can create a vector in R. So we will create a vector to store the numbers 1 through 5. So you'll want your next one to look like this. And I'm also going to go ahead and delete out the pieces of the template that I don't want. And one other thing, I am going to change this to lab 1. We'll just say, I'll just put my name here. Give it some title. All right, once you have those pieces, go ahead and knit those either to Word or PDF. And once you have an R notebook that contains this information, that is the last thing you need for today's lab. So you've created an R script. We've taken some of that information and we've put it into an R notebook, which we could then give to someone that better illustrates what's going on in the code. And we can include, verbiage, and we can actually have code and output. Again, for this one, not that informative, but hopefully you can see if you were working with data, this could be a really useful way to work with collaborators. Once you get this and you have that PDF, that is the last thing you need to turn in for lab today. So for lab, I just want you to turn the script that we made and then the PDF. And after that, you are done. So what we're gonna do now is if you get that done and you have no questions, then we're done for the day and I will see you next week and I'll be watching my email. If you did not get to there and you need help, this is the time that we're going to work with that. If you want to be able to knit to PDF, you're having trouble with Miktex, we can address those issues now. So that is the end. Any questions to start with? Just in general about the course as well.
Are you going to post this recorded class to the Canvas?
I am. So what I will do is I will always try to remember to record this. And what I will do is in the lab module for today, I will post this video in there. Now I will tell you, after I make one of these videos on Zoom, it does take it a while to compile. So it'll take me a little bit to get it on there, but I will post it and it will always be on the lab page after we have lab.
on the files that we are submitting, should they contain information exactly as we have done here, or we can put another code?
If you want to add some additional code to play around, you are more than welcome to do that. But you do want to, at a bare minimum, have what we did today in class.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question about saving it in R.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a second though, Priyas. I just had a thought that I want to make sure I say before anybody leaves. I meant to say this earlier. So this is a brand new class. So everything that I'm developing for this class is 100% brand new. So keeping that in mind, I recognize that a lot of you are probably going to have to use R in either your research or things that you're actually working on. If there is anything that you know already, hey, I really want to learn how to do this in R, and you have that in mind, feel free to shoot me an email and I will make sure that we cover that, as long as it's reasonable, we will cover that this semester. So sorry, Brooke, I just wanted to say that before somebody left, and just make sure you all know this class is 100% for you. So if there's something that you want covered this semester or you want to learn how to do, make sure to tell me and I'll make sure that we cover it. So Brooke, you had a question about saving?
Okay, actually I thought of another question first.
Yeah.
So everything is due the Monday after lecture, right? So this would technically be due Monday.
Exactly. So if you come to lab ready to go and you've already watched the lectures for that week, you're always going to have work done early and you don't have to worry about it.
Okay. And then my question about saving. So at the bottom right corner, there's the files section. I don't know how to save into that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So let's say you wanted to, so you can't actually, is that true? No, I don't think you can save using this piece. To do the save, what you'll want to do is go up to File, and let's say that I wanted to save this to a particular spot on my computer. Just like you would in Word, click on Save As. That's going to bring up the navigation pane to your computer. Navigate to where you want to save this, and just give it the file name that you want.
Okay, so we're not actually saving in the software.
No.
Okay.
No. So all this is down here in this bottom window, all this is doing is it's accessing the files on your computer. None of that actually lives in RStudio. It is purely just a way to navigate the files on your computer.
Okay, this sounds like a me issue then, because I'm on my office computer and it has like a bunch of different folders, but not what I need. So I need to figure that out.
Yeah, you want to share your screen and we can look at it?
So my Mac is too old to download anything like relatively new for R, so it's on like a desktop. So I don't know if I can really share it.
Gotcha. Later on, if you still have trouble with it later on, just let me know, and
okay.
we'll figure out something so that I can help you with it.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions? Want to look at it together?
Yeah. What are the two files we're turning into? So I have a PDF for the stuff we transferred over, and then I have a RMD file and then a module script. Yep. So which ones would you like us to turn in? The PDF and then which one?
The PDF and the script.
And the script. Okay, perfect.
Because the RMD file is going to contain the same information as the PDF, if that makes sense. So that's why you'll have the PDF and then the script.
All right, that makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question really quick. When I get to like knit the Word file, well, the PDF doesn't work, but that's okay. But when I go into like the notebook and I delete that bottom portion, like to get rid of all like that extra text, and I try to knit it, it gives me an error and it doesn't knit.
Yeah, do you mind to pull up the file and we'll take a look at it?
Sure. Let me get the screen. This one. So let me do a Control Z here, because the file pulls up like normally, and I just want to like to see if I can get rid of this in R.
So do me a favor, close this Word document and go back to the file in R.
Closed. Go to R.
And
then
read that out for me.
I'm gonna go to knit to Word.
Okay.
I don't mind deleting that in Word. I just wanted to know if I messed up.
Yeah, I don't think you did. Sometimes it'll do some funny stuff. I wonder. I'm trying to think off the top of my head if I know why it's doing that.
Because if I just put it back and knit,
It
runs like a charm.
Okay, do me a favor. Delete everything but the word add at the beginning. I'm just curious if that'll fix it. I think I know what's happening.
Yep.
Yeah. For some reason, every once in a while, I'll see this after a code chunk. If I don't have anything after it, it will get angry. So do me a favor, get rid of the add and then also highlight above that and the empty space that you have there. Make sure that is deleted out, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, try knitting now and see what it does.
Oh no, yeah, that's not gonna work. Yeah, that's the PDF one.
I think it knitted.
It's MD.
Oh, it didn't knit as a word. I gotcha.
Yeah. It's not knitting. Oh.
There it is. Try it one more time. I think it just had problems from where you had halted the one and started a new one. So just try doing the knit to word one more time.
Delete that line. Knit to Word. Yep. Cool.
Yeah, every once in a while that'll happen to me. So I think it was just you had something with the space there at the end made it angry.
Okay, so it doesn't like spaces.
Yeah.
Trying to figure this out. Let me stop sharing. And so we don't have to figure out the Miktex. We can just
Nope.
save it in Word and save as PDF.
I am perfectly fine with that. Sometimes dealing with the Miktex is just really frustrating. So I'm happy with that workaround.
Cool. And on Canvas, do you want a zip file with
Nope,
both or separate?
Yep, just submit them separately. So you'll have the .r file and the PDF.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, who's next?
You mentioned earlier there's a workaround to get a smaller installation of Miktex.
Yeah, so I don't think there's a workaround to get the smaller installation. The workaround is to use Word. That's what the workaround would be.
All right, I'll go with that then. Thank you,
Yeah,
Professor.
I wish there was a smaller one because I installed it on my Mac last night, and yeah, it took it quite a while. Oh, speaking of which, for those of you left in here, if you are on a Mac, everything that I do for illustration, oh yes, you are free to go, JP. Everything that I do for illustration, I'm going to do on my PC, but occasionally things will look different on a Mac. It's rare, but it does happen. I also have a Mac. So if I do something on the PC and you're on a Mac and you're like, oh, what's going on here? Can you help me? Just let me know and I can work on the Mac and see if I can troubleshoot it. But again, 95, 99% of everything is going to look the same from PC to Mac.
So I'm on a Mac, and when I was installing all this last night, I installed R, then RStudio, then Miktex, and then the Miktex, or I can't remember all the names. But so I basically got it all installed. Everything I did today worked fine, but I kind of am curious which which applications I can now delete off my computer.
Yeah, get rid of the Miktex. The MIK
Got it.
one, you can get rid of that one. So the order is important if you're using Miktex because there's a problem with the how it reads the path in RStudio sometimes. It's interesting though, because I played around with the Miktex last night, the MAC one. That one you can install after R and RStudio and it's able to find it no problem. So just one of the quirks of you know, dealing with software. But yeah, you can get rid of the MIK, MIK one.
So if we are getting that compilation error for the PDF, would you recommend just uninstalling and then reinstalling in the right order?
That's what I would do. And Ripley, are you on a PC or a Mac?
PC.
Yeah, so on the PC, if you reinstall it in that other order, 99% of the time it fixes the issue. If it's still having the issue, let me know. And then the other option is you can use the Word output.
Right. Thank you.
But that's on a PC, that is a very common issue that I see.
So with mine, it says in the RStudio, when I try to knit it to a PDF, it says it's not detecting any of the text, which I know I've done Miktex and then deleted because that didn't work. And then I just installed Miktex. And I know Miktex is on my computer because I can see it. I'm looking at the file right now. So do I have to link it to anything or?
You'll probably, so that happened to me last night and all I had to do was close my RStudio and just start it back. Yep.
Okay, let me try that.
Just can I tell you how much I love your dog's ears? So I had a natural Dobie. She died two years ago now from cancer.
Oh.
God, love of my life, but she had those big, soft, long ears, and oh, I just love the natural.
Oh, he's got them. He has them for sure. He's 7 months right now. I got him.
It's like a baby.
Yeah, he's only 7 months right now, and he's a ham. Everybody who meets him loves him, which is such a wonderful thing. Ripley calls him her nephew, so.
Seriously, if you all have never met Dobie, their ears are made of velvet. It's pure velvet on those ears.
Absolutely fabulous. His name's Otto, by the way.
Well, I'm already in love with Otto, so you know.
He's very Velcro, which means he demands to be up in my lap while I'm trying to like work, which is funny too. So I have to like hold him in class sometimes because he's an absolute child. Okay, let's.
Those names are perfectly fine. Yeah, okay, no, Dobos are known to be the Velcro dog.
Okay, so I did close RStudio and it did work, so that's fabulous. Okay,
perfect.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah,
what are the things that you want us submitting? It's the Word document and what else?
The script. So the very first file that we made, that .r file.
Okay, so you do, like, I didn't know if you wanted us submitting the entire R file, but.
Yeah, so you want to do, yeah, so the .r file, which that's the big file that we made with a bunch of code in it, and then a PDF of the R notebook. So okay. there's really 3 files you made. You made the .r file, so we want that one. And then the .rmd file, that file is used to create the PDF. So that's why I only need the PDF, because if you got the PDF, I know you did the .rmd file correct.
Okay, so like, I don't need to like submit this entire thing on.
No. So the only thing you're submitting is that .r file. So let me share my screen.
Yeah, because I don't see the .r file.
Yeah, so the only thing that you're going to submit is this file right here. If you don't know where this is saved on your computer, let me show you a trick of how to find it. Okay, and I'll cover this later on. But if you down here in the bottom type GETWD, open and close parentheses with nothing inside of it, and click enter, it is going to give you a place on your computer. Actually, no, wait, that's not true. That's not true, Brooke. That actually won't work in this case. Let me think about how to find that. You can find that. Sorry, I'm trying to think here.
'Cause I think whenever I tried to save the .r file, it saved the entire R, like,
So it won't save all of this. Like it looks like it does in RStudio, but if you save this file, it's actually only saving this piece.
so if I just go to File, Save As, it'll only save that.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and so then when you do that save as, wherever you save that to, that's where that file will be located. So when you go to do the upload on Canvas, you can just navigate to that place on your computer, and you should see, depending on what you name it, but like in mine, I would see module_1_3 script.r. That .r, that file extension, that's what lets you know that this is the script.
Okay, so I just like saved it and then opened it, and it just opened the entire.
Yeah. So here, show me your screen. Let me. Where am I? Here, stop share. Oh, sorry, I forgot your.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, so notice when okay, so you clicked on it and it just popped in that upper left-hand window, right?
Yeah, like so here, I'll close out of this. So I saved it as the .r file. Like I went to File, Save, and then when I open it, it opens all of this.
Okay, so the reason that is happening, let me give you an analogy and see if this makes sense.
Okay.
If you go on your computer and you double click on a Word file, in order to view that Word file, you have to view it in a Word, right? So if you double click on a Word file, it brings up the Word file and it brings up all of Word.
Okay.
This is doing the same thing. When you double click on that file, what it does, in order to view that file, your computer knows that you want to view it in RStudio. So it opens up all of RStudio and it opens up the file in the left-hand corner. So notice when you look at this, you see like in your global environment there on the right and down below, you don't have any of the stuff that we had before. That's because none of this code has been run yet.
Okay.
So that piece in the upper left, that really is the file that you open. It's just in order to view it, it opens up all of RStudio for you automatically.
Okay.
Does that make more sense?
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
So yeah, so on Canvas, you'll just submit that the .r file and then the .pdf. It'll be everything you need.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Elise?
Yeah.
I still have the problem with generating the graph with the R notebook.
Do you mind to pull up your screen again?
Sure.
Let me see. Because I'm looking at your code looked good. So let me see, you've got that. I'd like you to do me a favor. I didn't show you this in class, but I'm curious what this will do. Will you click on knit for me? And from the drop down, select knit to HTML. Oh, okay. Well, okay, so that looks good. So we actually deleted out the portion that had the plot in it. So that's why you're not seeing the plot right now. So let's close this one. Let's actually open up a new one. So start a new R notebook for me. Yeah. And then it'll make you save it. So you can just save this as like example or test example, like, any name there, because you're not going to turn this one in, but let's see if we can get this to work. All right, perfect. So now go up to preview, click down. So that preview is where the knit would be, and click on knit to HTML for me. All right, so the plot's working here. All right, so close this one, and now let's do the knit to Word.
Oh.
Yeah, You know what I bet happened was something just maybe accidentally got deleted or who knows. So it looks like it's working good now.
Sounds good. Another thing is regarding the Miktex. I can. It seems like I need everything to Word, but I cannot do PDFs.
Knitting to Word, it'll be perfectly fine. Just after you knit it to Word, just save that Word document as a PDF.
Okay, so you're gonna talk about a Miktex maybe next time?
No. So if you want to use Miktex, so you've got two options in the class. You can either create the R notebook using Word and saving as a PDF, or you can use the Miktex. One option or the other. So if you want to use the Miktex, we can do that, and I can help you fix that now. Are you on a Mac or a PC?
PC.
Okay. When you installed R and R Studio, did you install Miktex after R Studio?
I think I installed Miktex. Oh, actually, I don't remember because I installed them like a year ago. So maybe before, maybe after.
Yeah, so
Do you
that's
think
almost,
that's the problem?
I do. It's almost always the problem on a PC. If you uninstall everything and reinstall them, do Miktex first, then R, and then R Studio, 99% of the time it fixes the issue.
Okay.
Yeah, the problem is if you install Miktex afterwards, R cannot find the path on your computer where Miktex is stored.
I see.
Yep, and so almost, and if that doesn't fix it, let me know, but that almost always fixes the issue.
It's nice to know. Well, I really want to say I really appreciate this class. It's a very good, beginning level R-star class, and I like it.
Hopefully it goes really well. Like I said, I am very, very excited for the class. So
that's good to know.
It was great meeting you. We're going to get out a little early today, so that's nice. Before we leave, though, did you have any other questions? Anything you want to look at together?
You solved all of my questions. You have a great weekend, Dr. Liz.
You too. Thank you so much.
Bye.